Book's name My Name is Abu Salem. Chapter 1 Barrister's Boy. It has to be one of the biggest ironies of our time that two of our India's most feared criminals were born into the homes of agents of law and order. While Dawood Ibrahim's father was a constable, Salem's father was a noted criminal lawyer in the legal circle of Azamgarh. Nevertheless, his family led a hand to mouth existence. Advocate Abdul Qayyam Ansari, who lived in Sarai Mir, practiced in the Azamgarh court. He travelled 15 kilometers from his home to the court by Rajdoot motorcycle every day. People look up to him in the semi-urban dually sprawl of the town. After all, the motorcycle was one of the sign of stable and well-to-do home. Abdul Qayyam and his wife had four sons. Abu Hakim was the oldest, then Abu Salem, followed by two more sons, Abu Lais and Abu Jaish. The youngest child was a girl who was named Anjum. It is striking that all the boys has the prefix Abu in their names. This is primarily an Arab Muslim custom. The first name is usually something like Muhammad, followed by like Abu Hakim, which means the father of Hakim. It is generally considered polite to call people by this epithet in their name rather than their first name. The family owned a flour mill near their home, a major source of their income. They used to sell ice cream and ice as well, but when Salem was only 5 years old, his father met with an accident on the way to the Azamgarh court. His motorcycle suffered a nasty collision with a bus and he was left on the side of the road bleeding for hours. When he was finally taken to the hospital, Qayyam was declared dead. The Ansari community that Qayyam belonged to is not generally considered to be very well educated, but the lawyer and his brother were exceptions and had studied far as college. Salem and his brothers fit the stereotype a lot better since they all studied up to only class 6 or 7 in an Urdu medium school before quitting. Salem himself got away as far as class 6. What he lacked in education, though, he more than made up in manners. Salem's mother was very strict, and though she could teach him very little mathematics or science, she was very particular about etiquettes and instilled in him a sense of social prosperity. As a result, Salem was very well mannered and highly respectful of his elders. He never cursed or quarreled. Instead, he always smiled and spoke with deference. After Qayyum's death, Salem's mom took to making and selling beads in order to earn a living. Eventually, Salem begins to show an interest in automobile and motorcycle repairing. By the age of 15, he had become proficient enough to be known as Saraimir as an excellent mechanic. It was then that ambition, integral part of Salem's psyche, kicked in. He bought in was time to move on a bigger city where his talent would be recognized. He wanted eventually open his own car and motorcycle repair garage. So at 15, he dropped everything, packed his belongings and set off to Delhi. He spent a couple of years struggling in Delhi repairing motorcycles, but slowly came to terms with the fact that he was getting nowhere. 2 years later, Salem realized that the time has come to move on. He didn't know what he would do, but he knew he couldn't get back home. The idea of going back to Azamgarh would be admitting failure, so despite his brothers, Abu Hakim and Abu Lais calling him back to home start a business there, he refused. Instead, he moved to Mumbai. His cousin Akhtar Ansari had told him that he owned a shop in Jogeshwari Arasa shopping center where he sold belts, perfume and other assorted items. Akhtar's shop was a tiny stall among the hundred of other packed so closely, many of them selling similar things. Naturally, competition was cutthroat and stall owners would try various things to gain a small advantage, including hiring members of the underworld for protection. This would be Salem's first brush with the mafia. Arasa shopping center has several shops which were owned by gangsters. This was the legitimate front of their illegal activities, so it was usual for the shopkeepers and owners to wine and dine together. Unimpressionable and unlettered Muslim youths like Salem tended to look up such gang members wanting to emulate them. Salem worked at the shop for 3 years and over the course of his time became familiar with the man there called as Sayyid Liaquat, who was known as Sayyid Topi because of his habit of wearing a topi. Sayyid Topi was Anis Ibrahim, Dawood Ibrahim's brother's point man in Arasa. He handled Anis' extortion activities between Bandra and Borivali and has been handling such affairs since 1985. Dawood, Mumbai's numero uno don during his period, had two of these brothers in his gang, Anis Ibrahim and Nurul Haq alias Nura. Anis played the more important role and Dawood's power grew through the 70s and 80s. His brother Anis too began spreading his tentacles in smuggling and land grabbing across the city. In 1986, Dawood and his brothers, including Anis, relocated to safe environments of Dubai.